Introduction about our speaker today. Mr. Senge is a researcher and human rights advocate. He was born in Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. He writes about the sufferings of the people of Gilgit-Baltistan and raised these issues regularly at international forum. He has worked extensively on revival of linguistic identity of the region and its cultural linkages with Tibet and India. Mr. Sering completed his engineering degree from the University of Engineering and Technology, Pakistan, and Masters in Development Studies from the University of East Anglia, England. Some of his previous engagements include working with Hira Industries, Aga Khan Foundation, and Baltistan Cultural Foundation. In 2009, he was selected as a visiting fellow to the Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, New Delhi. His paper titled Expansion of the Karakoram Corridor, Implications and Prospects offers an in-depth analysis about the ongoing Chinese projects in Gilgit-Baltistan. Currently, Mr. Sering runs the Washington, D.C.-based Institute for Gilgit-Baltistan Studies, which has a firm commitment to the protection and promotion of human rights in Gilgit-Baltistan and holds conferences to disseminate information on local autonomy and democracy, extremism and terrorism, demilitarization and cross-border trade, environmental sustainability and preservation of indigenous culture. Since its inception in 2010, the Institute has established partnerships in the United Nations, the US Congress, the British and the European Parliaments, as well as think tanks and academic institutions. We are very happy to welcome Mr. Sering here for this Indic Academy talk.
Namaskar, good afternoon everyone. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here as part of the bigger Indian family. I think it's a great opportunity for someone from POK, or now we call it Pakistan-occupied Ladakh, Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, to be able to express myself and exchange views with all of you. We'll try to speak a little louder. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
So today, it's a very important day, and I don't think you planned it that way, but November 16 is the day when Pakistan officially took control of Gilgit. So a British military officer, Major Brown, he was part of this whole scheme of orchestrating military incursions in Gilgit-Baltistan and other parts of POK. It's famously known as Ladakh Operation and Gulmarg Operation. These are the two operations that the Pakistanis, with the help of the British military, conducted in Jammu and Kashmir after Maharaja Hari Singh, he acceded to India on October the 27th. Then because of these military incursions, Pakistan was able to take control of 1/3 of Jammu and Kashmir, and Major Brown played a major role in that. And eventually Pakistan gave him the award of, it's called a Sitara Imtiaz or Sitara Jurrat. It's one of the prestigious awards in Pakistan as his services to the Pakistani nation and the country. So on 16th of November, then Pakistan sent its bureaucrats in Gilgit-Baltistan, and they officially claimed Gilgit-Baltistan as their own. So I think it's very appropriate to have an event on this day so we could talk about the occupation since then. It's been 70 years in Pakistani occupation. So right now, after the creation of the Union Territory of Ladakh, Gilgit-Baltistan, the entire Gilgit-Baltistan has been made part of Leh district. So now Ladakh is two districts, Kargil and Leh, and the entire Gilgit-Baltistan has been incorporated into Leh district. Rest of the POK, which is Muzaffarabad, Mirpur, Kotli, there are about 10 districts there. They are still part of POJK, and Gilgit-Baltistan it's not part of JNK anymore. It's part of Pakistan-occupied Ladakh. So I like to see it that way. We border Afghanistan and China on the western side, about 100 kilometers, 106 kilometers of Afghanistan and Gilgit-Baltistan, we share common border. And there's about 9 kilometers of Wakhan Strip, and on the other side of that strip is Tajikistan. So we're not that far from Tajikistan either. If we climb our mountains, we can see Tajikistan's land from there. So it's very strategic. It was part of the Silk Road from India. The trade happened through China, India, and went into Central Asia and Turkey and rest of Europe. And Ladakh and Baltistan provided some of the Silk Road branches, and then Gilgit also provided some branches that came further south into, let's say, Shimla and Delhi and other places. So before partition, my hometown Skardo was the winter capital of Ladakh, because it's really cold in Leh. Leh is about 12,000 feet from sea level, so it gets extremely cold. So they used to do the Darbar move and come to Skardo, which is about like 7,000 feet from the ground. So we were part of Ladakh even before the partition. That's why we've been put back into Ladakh. Gilgit was its own entity, and it was controlled through Kashmir province, and we were controlled through Jammu province. So Ladakh was with Jammu province, and Gilgit was with Kashmir province. So there were two provinces in Jammu and Kashmir at that time. You already know the new map of India.
Not everyone may have seen it.
Right? Everyone has seen that map. It's really famous now with the blue turquoise color.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, because we have turquoises. Ladakh is famous for turquoise, so they're using
Turquoise water.
exactly very appropriate color for Ladakh. Oh, you wanna?
Stone is also made.
So if you look at the next map, you will see the major towns of Gilgit-Baltistan within the new Ladakh Union Territory. And this is where Afghanistan is, this is where China is, Xinjiang, and this is where Tibet is, right? So this is all Afghanistan, and then this is the rest of Pakistan there. So Tajikistan, after 9 kilometers of a small strip here, Tajikistan starts right here. So Tajikistan is here, then Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. So the whole Central Asia is connected with Wakhan. So for India, it'll be only that small strip of Wakhan, and then it'll be in Central Asia. So ethnically, we are a big mix because of its location and how different ethnic groups came together. And there were the Parthians, there were the Scythians, there were the Sogdians. These were different, ethnic groups that eventually formed a blend. And then there was a big attack from Mongolia and Tibet. And that gave the eastern part of Gilgit-Baltistan its culture and language. So we speak, Tibetan dialects. Our names are Tibetan. And we were all Buddhist. And we were Hindu for about 550 years. And there are several architectural and archaeological important sites there that still exist. Gilgit was a very famous site of a Buddhist university, from where all the Buddhist scholars they were dispatched to Central Asia. So all the Buddhism that you see in Uzbekistan today and other places, they had their kind of like staging post in Gilgit. Mm-hmm. So from central India or northern India, the Buddhists would go to Gilgit in the universities, and then they would be further dispatched further north from there. And in Baltistan, we had universities where our scholars were sent to Tibet. So even though Tibet, Lhasa, if you look at the map of Tibet, you will see that it's very close to Bihar. Mm-hmm. But there was no direct preaching from Bihar into Tibet. It went through Ladakh. It went like this along the Indus River. So a lot of Balti famous scholars who converted local Tibetans who at that time were following Bon religion. Right. And the Bon, they became Buddhist. It was because of famous Balti scholars. And the people in Gilgit, they are of Dardic ancestry. So Dardic is a bigger linguistic racial group that incorporate people from Chitral, people from Gilgit, the Kashmiris, and these three large groups. The Gilgit people speak a dialect of Dardic called Shina, and the Chitralis speak Khwar, and the Kashmiris, they call it Kashmiri. I don't know what they call it, in the ancient times, but now their language is called Kashmiri. And all three of them together is called Dardic, right? And we speak Tibetan dialects in Baltistan. So Baltistan is almost 90% Tibetan. And then up north along the Tajik border, it's Tajiki language. because of obvious reasons, its proximity to Tajikistan. So as I said, we were Hindus first, then Buddhist, and then by the end of about 17th century, it was all converted to Islam. It was mostly Shia Islam compared to the rest of Pakistan, which is Sunni Islam. And what's happening today, the persecution and oppression is basically because of that big difference that we have between Shia and Sunni, and lack of trust and lack of collaboration between two sects because of their ancient past. The Shias believed that there were Sunni rulers who massacred Prophet Muhammad's family in the desert of Karbala, right? And since then, they have not been able to really reconcile their differences. But in Baltistan and in some parts of Gilgit, we still have a lot of reverence for our ancient born traditions. So for instance, the local gods are called La. In Ladakh and Balistan, our gods are called La. And when people go for hunting or for, take their yaks to the pastures, or they start agricultural activities like harvest or sowing or all of that, we offer our offerings to the La. So despite the fact that, this is a very different kind of Islam that, you'll probably not find in rest of Pakistan or among the Muslims in, let's say, UP Bihar anymore, right? So these are some of the pictures that, they still exist there. This is about 26, 28 feet tall boulder, and it has 32 Buddha etchings on it. The two of them are Maitreyas, the standing Buddha, which are the future Buddha, right? And the one sitting in the middle, and then there are about 28 around it, is Sakyamuni, which is the Buddha from the past. In local language, we call Chenrezik in Tibetan. Again, these are all Buddhist sites. I wished if you had something bigger, but
so
yeah.
they date back to which year, which decade?
Conversion to Buddhist?
Yeah, they date back to which date?
So most of our etchings are from 280.
280.
Yeah. All right, so now we'll talk about Pakistan and Gilgit-Baltistan. So our relationship with Pakistan was built on a big lie, basically. And that big lie was that we would become Pakistani citizens. We would become Pakistani. That was this big lie that, we were fed when in 1947 the war happened, right? And local people thought that just like the rest of India, which was divided, and Punjab went to Pakistan, half of it, and then Sindh and all these, Gilgit-Baltistan or Kashmir will also become part of Pakistan. But what they didn't know was that the princely states is a different way of accession to India or Pakistan, and the ruler of Gilgit-Baltistan and Jammu Kashmir had acceded to India. And it was done through a constitutional system within the British framework, so it was irreversible. Right? This is what we believe, that it was a constitutional setup. So the representative of Queen or King George in India was Lord Mountbatten. In Pakistan, it was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And whoever acceded to India and Pakistan and accepted by the British monarchy became part of those countries. So that crucial, that vital part of information was not disclosed to us, that we had already become Indian citizens. And we thought that since physically we are in Pakistani control, we would become Pakistani. So if we had known it in the beginning, our relationship with Pakistan would have been very different. But we thought, and because of lack of information, knowledge, education, at that time literacy was literally like less than probably 5 or 6%. So years after years, decades after decades of this expectation that eventually we'll become Pakistan, and then 1980s came and more information poured in, nationalism kind of like, regained foothold, and eventually then people started realizing that we cannot have constitutional relationship with Pakistan because of certain reasons. So today, literally everyone is aware that we are not Pakistani. So it took about 70 years for the people to eventually realize that, but it's, so what happens is that when you build a relationship on a lie, then eventually The occupying force knows that eventually it will be known to people, so then they have to come with different tactics to continue to control and suppress people and benefit from the land because of our location. As you know, without us, Pakistan cannot have a land link with China, right? And because of all the resources we provide, all the Indus River comes from Gilgit-Baltistan. So 60% of the water for Pakistan comes from our land, from POJK and Pakistan occupied Ladakh. And then, the Chinese route and all that. So I think it became very important for Pakistan that even if local people were to find out that they're not Pakistani, they were not going to let them go. So they use different tactics. And today I'm going to talk about those tactics which eventually, laid this foundation of distrust among local people and their turn against Pakistan. And today you will see huge demonstrations everywhere against Pakistan because of that relationship. So first was that, as I said, we were not going to be a constitutional part of Pakistan, right? So instead of giving us our own constitution, Pakistan ruled us without any constitution for all these years. So even today, while I'm sitting here and talking to you, Gilgit-Baltistan does not have a constitution. So Indian Ladakh, Indian Jammu Kashmir, they, right from the first day, when India became sovereign in, I think, 1955, right?
Just
1950, or it was a British dominion, and then it was allowed to have its own constitution. So 50, yeah. So Pakistan had its own constitution 56. You had in 1950, right? Jammu Kashmir could benefit from that constitution because it was naturally through accession became part of India. We were not going to have that privilege. So even in 1956, and then later there was another constitution, and then the third one, which was 73 Constitution of Pakistan by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, which they call the unanimously accepted by all federating units, right? We still are not given any constitutional rights in Pakistan. So we cannot vote, during Pakistani election, for instance. We cannot access justice through Pakistani judicial system, Supreme Courts, High Courts. We have our own kind of like no man's land, right? That's how they've been ruling us. So this is, as a result of the occupation, Pakistan have been ruling us without constitution, and this has brought a lot of distrust among people, and there's a lot of anger and anxiety as to when this problem will be solved. Will they ever become Pakistani? Now they know they will not become, but during the 60s and 70s and 80s, they thought, we're just about to take a turn, right? Next corner, and we'll be Pakistani, and it never happened. And
what is the population that we're talking about?
So we're talking about just about 1.5 million. It's a very small area, but the land mass, I was talking to Banuji, it's about maybe 4 or 5 times bigger than Haryana. So it's huge. If you put Punjab, Haryana, Himachal all together, Gilgit-Baltistan is still bigger than that. So Pakistan's province, KPK, for instance, it's bigger than KPK. It's huge. It's literally, it's a very huge land mass for in China, Afghanistan, and so it's important for its location, not for its population. And one time I think Yasin Malik was sitting on the stage, and Sajjad Lone was with him, and he was trying to brag that the reason why Gilgit is not important because Kashmir has 7 million people. And I said, look, if you have more feeding mouth, you're a liability. We have less population, more resources, we are an asset. So in the context of whether India or Pakistan, if you have too much population and less land and resources, you're a liability, So I think it's a good thing that Gilgit-Baltistan doesn't have too many people living there, but an enormous amount of land and resources. In 1949, Pakistan divided POJK into Gilgit-Baltistan and what they call Azad Kashmir. So what India did now, the reorganization of state happened in Pakistani occupation 1949. Pakistan took Gilgit-Baltistan in direct control without any political or constitutional setup, the way we live right now. But for AJK, the POK, they gave its own constitution, its own president, its own prime minister, its own flag, everything. But they didn't give them the sovereignty, right? So the sovereignty of POJK or AJK stays with Pakistan. Pakistan make all the decisions on the POJK, but they gave them a setup that looks like a country. This is a map which is very interesting. This is a map of 1948-49. The Yan and Gilgit is that of international border. So even United Nations maps from that time recognize that Pakistan and India do not have the same relationship with POJK or JNK as a whole. Pakistan is an occupier and it was asked to withdraw, right? We all know it. Pakistan was given 90 days. Pakistan never respected that. But India, because of letter of accession, was accepted as a country that is supposed to protect the life, assets, and honor of people of Jammu and Kashmir. So even if there was a plebiscite to happen, it was going to be under the supervision of Indian government. We know that. And Pakistan was going to vacate and stay out till the final decision of the plebiscite. So India has a very legal central role even in the referendum and plebiscite. It has to work with the United Nations and provide all the security and logistics as well as the whole framework. So I think that's an important point that we need to know. So here's a news cutting from Pakistani newspaper says, the Minister for Kashmir Affairs says that as per Pakistani constitution, Pakistani parliament is not allowed to even discuss POJK. So they know that, their hands are tied. They can't do anything, but they still want to benefit from its location and geostrategic importance. So this is the huge mismatch, right, that we are stuck with.
What's the difference between the Gilgit part and you said Azad Kashmir?
Yeah. So where's the pen? Is this the red one? Oh, right there. So in 1949, they reorganized POJK, right? This whole thing is POJK. And then they turned this into AJK or Azad Kashmir.
Okay.
Then the so-called Neelam Valley, Mirpur, that area, which is parallel to the India's Jammu and Kashmir, is what they call Azad Kashmir.
Yeah,
There is a misconception. Gilgit was never POK. They used to call it as Northern Territories sometime.
Yeah, it was a province of Kashmir. It was called Northern Province of
Yeah,
Kashmir
Northern Province.
before partition. So this is all Jammu.
Yeah.
Valley is here, right?
Mhm.
So even though Valley is not, directly in touch physically with the Pakistani occupied part, they still call it POK or Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is kind of like confusing.
So do people want to be part of Pakistan or they want to be independent or they want to be part of India?
I think right now they want to be, a huge majority want independence. I don't think there's any sentiments for Pakistan that way. There was a hope, as I said, till the 1980s and 90s that Pakistan has the same status with vis-a-vis J&K like India. But now they know that it's almost impossible for Pakistan to incorporate it. So I think they do not have those sentiments the way they used to have.
For the demographic composition we are talking about here, in 1.5 million people, what's the demographic composition was?
What is that?
Demographic composition was.
Religion or languages?
Religion, language, like religion is.
So religion, POK is, I would say, about 80% Sunni.
80%.
Yeah, 85% Sunni, about 15% Shia. And Gilgit-Baltistan, they changed the demography. So now you can say about 70% they affiliate with different Shia sects. And Sunnis used to be about 10 to 15%, but now I think it's jumped to 30-some%. But the significance is that people are settled very strategically, right? So they are going to economic hubs. They're going to the capital of Gilgit-Baltistan. They're going to the land which is along the Karakoram highway, which connects China and Pakistan. This is where their focus is. They want to change demography, so Pakistan and China connection is secured. So that's where in 1988 a huge massacre happened, which went on for about 16 days. They burned about I think 15 or 16 villages. And all those villages, mostly they lie along the Karakoram highway, so they wanted to change the demography there.
So there is no non-Muslim population at all? Like Buddhist
I don't know after 1971, but I do believe that before 1971 there are a couple of villages in Baltistan which had Buddhist population.
But didn't they change the demographics of POK also with the minorities as they live in the area?
So, are you talking about like in 1947 when Hindus?
No, afterward. I mean, since the Pakistan has occupied that whole area,
Yeah.
which includes POK and Balochistan, haven't they changed the demographics who, like Hindus and, who are Sunni, not Sunni, but Shia Muslims?
I believe that
Ahmadiyas,
Hindus, yeah.
They have really changed the demographics of that whole
In
region.
AJK, I do believe that Hindus were forced.
Yeah, they are forced
Yeah, they
into
were forced.
conversion.
Yeah.
Even now that they force the girls, they take them away and marry them to Muslims, and then whether they want it or not, and that's still happening.
Most conversions are happening in Sindh province.
It's in France.
Yeah, I don't believe that AJK has any Hindu population left.
Left, yeah, they are all.
Most of them, they ended up in Delhi, some in Jammu, I guess. Yeah, mostly in Delhi. But I don't believe that they have any Hindu population left. I'll be very surprised if there are Hindus still living in AJK.
So Kashmiri are different and Muslims are different?
Sorry?
Kashmiri means, what is that?
So Kashmiri is a linguistic identity, right? And within Kashmiri, they have Muslims, Hindus, Sikh, and Buddhist. They speak different. They speak the same language, but they follow different religions. So that's Kashmiri.
What's the percentage wise?
So that has also changed over time. So I will talk about Indian Kashmir. So Indian part of the Kashmir, as we just mentioned about what happened in 47. So what happened was slowly it started with about 6% or 7% in 1947, but slowly because that had dropped. It was 100% Hindus, right? Then they became Buddhists. Then they became converts. And the conversion happened when all the Muslim kings and others occupied that area. But there were still about 6-7% who were Hindus still in 1947. So after 1947, again it started with a slow migration, we will call it migration. And by the time 1980s, it was about 5% or so. But now it's less than 2,000 people there. Because then in 1990s,
Virtually non-existent.
yeah,
So
it
on
was
our
not-
on our side, we don't have any Kashmiris. We don't have
They don't have, the
Kashmiri speaking
Kashmiris,
people.
that dialect speaking Kashmiris we are talking about is only on Indian side.
Yeah.
How many Shias are there in Indian Kashmir? How many Shia population is there in Indian Kashmir?
Indian Kashmir, maybe less than 3 or 4%. I don't know exactly how many, but it's
All the
not.
Muslims who are being killed in
It's mostly
Kashmir,
Sunni Muslims.
they're Sunni or Shias who are being killed?
No, Sunni Muslims.
Sorry to interrupt. Let's get on with the talk and then we'll have interaction later because we don't want the speaker.
I'm okay,
We have a timer.
You can use me the way you want.
Let him finish this.
This will
There is so much
answer.
of curiosity, a lot of
I know, but,
questions, raising up.
We'll conclude the talk in another 20 minutes and then we'll open up the.
So second important reason why local people have turned against Pakistan is Pakistan giving China a free hand,
Yes.
right? So the fact that we do not have a constitutional setup to protect our land and identity, the way Indian Kashmir has or Jammu has. So now the Chinese are occupying our resources. They are occupying our pastures. They are destroying our irrigation networks. The speaker of the local assembly, he said that, and it's on record, literally every important mountain and pasture have been leased out now. Locals do not have access there. And when the Chinese take up local resources and lease them, then what the Pakistani military do is that they stop locals from accessing those pastures. So if the locals are dependent on livestock, for instance, then the major chunk of their livelihood is dependent on livestock. obviously what would happen is that they would be forced to change their livelihoods, professions. And if they're not trained in any other profession, they would lose a major chunk of their wealth, right? So this is what's happening with our rural areas right now. They're losing their wealth. They're forced to migrate, to urban areas and then eventually to Pakistan. So it's leading to huge demographic change. The Chinese, they're building dams there. And Chinese are also digging up gold and copper and heavy metals and other gems, and they're just siphoning and taking it back to China, not paying local people any revenues that are due. They are not involving local people, so the jobs are going to the Chinese. They're bringing their own Han workers, right? They're even bringing their own technology, their own machines and equipment, and everything is coming from China. So they're not really involving local people. But they're very smart. So what they do is at the management level, they hire one or two people who are related to influential political families and call them their managers to show that these are local companies. And they give them Pakistani names. But that real ownership on their paper stays with the Chinese nationals and Chinese Han. So they're very smart in that way to camouflage to the outside world. So this is what's happening in Gilgit-Baltistan right now, that most of our land has been leased out. All our resources are at the mercy of outsiders. It's been almost 12 years since Pakistan put a ban on local people. So local people cannot do mining anymore, because otherwise they would be competing with outsiders. So that's how brutal Pakistani system is, where the local people are banned to use their own resources. Outsiders are exploiting it, and they're not sharing the revenue or the jobs or the services or any benefits with the local people. So there's huge chunks of land that have been leased out, important land along the Karakoram Highway up close to the glaciers. And I will show you a slide where the minister says anyone who opposes Chinese projects will be declared a terrorist. So hundreds and hundreds of people have been declared terrorists. There's a article within the anti-terrorism law which is called Schedule 4. And under Schedule 4, what they do is they restrict your movement, physical movement to your district, and you have to report to the police if you want to leave your district. They take away your jobs, they take away your bank accounts, they take away your ID cards and passports. And they're doing this to the youth who are opposing Chinese projects and projects of other international companies there, including Pakistani. So that is something that has really turned the local people against Pakistan.
So that one is going to independent side or what?
Yeah, so these people, they don't want to be part of Pakistan. They have seen Pakistan enough for the 70 years and they don't think, and now slowly they're saying, given what India has done for the Kashmiris, now you will hear a lot of people saying, if we can be independent, we want to be with India, but we don't want to be with Pakistan. So there's this, new wave of, uprising. And that's why, Pakistan is very scared and they're putting everyone in jail. So I'm going to show you slides later, which I don't know how many people sitting here can see, but I will show some faces of people who have been given 90 years in jail, who have been given 60 years in jail, 35 years in jail, just for opposing this exploitation. So these people are, they're very strictly anti-Pakistan. They say, if there's no option for independence, we'll go with India. So, this thing is, coming up now. The Karakoram Highway, for instance, it is in the ownership of Pakistani military. So all the people who build Karakoram Highway have to be Pakistani by law. They don't induct local people. So, they're really angry about that too. The custom check post on the Chinese border, for instance, all the revenue goes to Islamabad. By Pakistani law, Gilgit-Baltistan cannot keep any revenue. So, their system, because it's non-constitutional, right? It's so arbitrary and it's so, cruel and brutal and, something that locals have realized, what they thought that Pakistan might emerge as a benign, country, but they believe that, the dishonesty and the cruelty is enshrined in their own constitution, their own system that they have been ruling, the country with for the last 70 years. So I think this is what the locals have realized. So there are Pakistani institutions which are federal institutions that they have membership of all the federating units like Balochistan, KPK, Sindh, and Punjab. These are the 4 federating units, right? This is what Pakistan is. And they control all the resources, and they have a veto. So for instance, if one of the federating units does not agree, they cannot really legislate on them. So these are called National Economic Commissions, Council of Common Interest, National Hydroelectric Boards, Indus River System Authority, these are international organizations. Gilgit-Baltistan or POK does not have membership there. So what it means that when they exploit our rivers, they don't give us any royalty. So for instance, Pakistan owes us more than, I think, 40 billion rupees a year. So if you add, let's say last 40 years to 40 billion, it'd be like maybe trillions in rupees. And Pakistan doesn't pay even a single penny to us. And they continue to exploit our water resources, and all the dams are built on it. Whereas if the same dam is to be built in one of their own provinces, then they will get a huge chunk of royalty, as well as the yearly compensation, the usage compensation, right? Royalty plus usage compensation. We don't get any of that. So that is also, a big source of anger and hatred and resentment among the local people. So these are some of the pictures. I don't know if you can see. So these are the places where the Chinese stay now. They have built permanent residences there. What is the other one? These are the trucks that they bring all the way from China. They don't trust Pakistani trucks, I guess. They have their own drivers. They don't take local. No jobs for locals. Everything literally, these are the mining companies that the Chinese have established there. These are the Chinese building a dam there, So if you look at this green part, this is the Indus River catchment area, and all the agricultural land will be underwater once this dam is built. It's called Diamer Dam. It's about 100 kilometers long. And it will, inundate literally entire district of Diamer. And then the next one is Katsura Dam. It will inundate the entire Shigar and Skardo district, these 2 districts, where almost 50% of Baltistan's population live. So all the agricultural land and residential and urban areas will go underwater, and these are being built and planned by Pakistan. So these are the pictures of local people protesting against lack of constitutional rights and the Chinese projects and Pakistani military grabbing land. So this is a huge protest in Skardo, I guess, against Chinese projects. These are the people who are protesting against Bonji Dam, against, again, a Chinese project. Chinese dam, Diamer, what is this? For land compensation, Krakram Highway. So these are the homes that have been destroyed by, Pakistan to build dams. And so from 1947 onward, we haven't received any land compensation for any infrastructure that Pakistan has built. These are again homes destroyed, lands taken. So this is the person who got 91 years in jail for trying to protect local lands. And he's only 30 some years old. He's been in jail for only 9 years now. He still have, another about 80 some years to go. But look at his, it looks like he's probably 60. He got about, I think, 60 some years because he actually, he's probably the most influential anti-Chinese or anti,
What's the name?
his name is Babajan. He's really famous. There's a lot of articles written about him.
Is he Gilgiti or what?
Well, he speaks Shina, but he's from Hunza district. So Hunza is a mix of Shina and Brzezinski, but I think he's Shina speaking. Pakistani military, again, there's another reason why local people are very angry at Pakistan is because the military is taking land from them, kicking people out of their homes in the name of Kashmir issue, in the name of providing security to the Chinese engineers and construction workers. Thousands and thousands of acres land has been taken from the local people. They have turned Skardo and Gilgit town into ghettos where they're like checkposts every few hundred yards. And local people have so much difficulty reaching from point A to point B. And then extrajudicial killings and murders. You have heard about Baloch missing person, right? We also have a lot of missing person in Gilgit-Baltistan that military and ISI is involved, kidnapping them. This is an article by a local journalist who says that a lot of these lands are being transferred to PLA, People's Liberation Army of China, and they come as engineers, they come as technicians, they come as experts on different mining projects and others, but they are part of PLA. This is army telling the local people the land belongs to army, so anyone will be prosecuted. These are the local people in Ganche district, which is on Nubra. It borders Nubra, and they're rising against Pakistani establishment for grabbing land. These are people in Gilgit city again against army. And this actually went viral because all the women came out and they start chanting slogans. These are the people against thousands of people here against army grabbing their land in Nomal, which is part of Gilgit district. Another reason why local people see Pakistan as an enemy is Shia killing, right? So local people don't support jihad. Local people do not accommodate the terrorists. So there's always clash between the jihadis and the local people. I was there when the clashes were happening, and they were trying to attack local women and trying to grab land, and they were trying to occupy homes, not paying rents, for instance. So they not only that they are killing Shias, but they're also attacking the local minority cultures. For instance, Ismailis. You probably heard about Ismailis. There are many Ismailis in Mumbai and other parts of Maharashtra and Gujarat, right? So now these jihadis, they're attacking Ismailis when they have their own cultural activities. And Ismailis, happen to be extremely liberal. Liberal to the point that, majority of the Muslims don't even consider them Muslim anymore, right? So they attack them. And then the Shias, for instance, they have their Muharram procession about Karbala, and they get attacked. And so Shia killing, in the last about 30 to 40 years, 23,000 Shias have been killed. And it's a huge, anathema for the Pakistani state and the local people. It's an embarrassment that they cannot really control because they are dependent on these people for Kashmir jihad, for Afghan jihad, right? So they can't really control them. And Shia killing and polarization of society is also a source of recruitment, right? Unless you polarize a mind of a child and make him extremist, you cannot really convince him to go and blow himself up. So there are different reasons why these people do that. It's not just money; it's also conviction. So one of the thing is that they say, and they say it openly. I mean, you can have videos on YouTube. They're saying the Shias are worse than Hindus because they are killing Islam, or they are polluting Islam, polluting within Islam. Right? They are adding to pollution within that religion, whereas the Hindus are outsiders. So your first enemy is a Shia. That's how they say. So then these children, they get radicalized like that Shias must, have done a lot of damage to Islam, right? So this is one of the reasons why they're so anti-Shia or anti-Ismaili, and they're killing Shias everywhere in Gilgit-Baltistan. There's some pictures that I brought. There are a lot of conversion going on from Sufi, Nurbakhshi to Wahhabi. So that's another reason why local people do not really trust the Pakistani system. Let's see. We have Taliban, in some districts where the Sunnis make majority, but they have established, and in the past they had established, their training camps in different parts, and they work with the Kashmiri militants. So that's another thing, that the Taliban and the Kashmiri terrorists, they work together. They have the same training camps in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, and from there they kind of get dispersed in different directions with different aims and objectives. So their collaboration is, and the base that they work on, the foundation and the logistical support all are provided by the anti-Shia groups, like Sapai Sahaba and Lashkar Jangbi and, Jundallah and these, they provide them with the resources and stuff. They attack local schools, they're against, women education, and so they do pretty much the same thing they do in Afghanistan and Swat Valley, and they're attacking local people. So it's kind of like, they are changing our culture, right? They are, in Pakistani schools, for instance, we're not allowed to learn our own languages. It's all about Islam, it's all about the history of the Mughals, how they invaded, how they, destroyed Hindu temples, and then the British, and how Muslims were persecuted, so they had to have their own country. It's all about Islam. So nationalism based on your language, your ethnicity, everything is discouraged, right? So, and on top of that, this extremism that we see, that I've talked about, this is really changing our culture there, and this is making local people extremely insecure. And they're fighting back, but the whole system, the whole state is with the people who have encroached upon us. So it's kind of like losing battle, if you look at it that way. So these are, some of the buses with the Shias that were torched. You can find these pictures on internet. They're everywhere. So we have to travel about 600 kilometers from Gilgit-Baltistan to reach Islamabad. And on the way, these people have their training camps. They're waiting. And they know exact location and the bus numbers and, how many Shias are there, because the ISI is really working with them. If the Shias go to Iran, for instance, the moment the bus enters, come back into Pakistan, they start tracking them. And they know exactly how many are from Gilgit-Baltistan, how many are Hazara. They have a very sophisticated system. And obviously it is there because the Pakistani intelligence system is working with them. So this is a very sad picture. So, Shias flagellate, right? How many of you know flagellation, right? So when they flagellate, they have blade marks on their back. So this person is checking his bag before killing him. So let's say if they ask, what's your name? So Shias have, certain very particular names that you can tell if you're Shia or Sunni. So even if he, let's say he decides to lie and he gives a very hardcore Sunni name, right? Then they will check his bag to make sure that, whether he has flagellation marks or not. So he was killed after, and there's a whole video about it. These are the people who were stoned to death. These are the Shias. So, sometimes they don't burn buses. They just stop the buses and stone them till the people inside, eventually die. So these are the protests, they were happening against Shia killing. And people are openly saying that army is responsible for Shia killing. They don't hide it anymore. So I don't know how many of you know, but in the 1960s and 70s, it was fed to us that India is behind Shia killing. And our parents probably believed it. So every time there was a Shia killing, they used to raise slogans of India Murdabad, right? So after, I think, 1990s or end of 1990s, during the Musharraf time, things started opening up. So now everyone strongly believe that it's all Pakistan army doing, and it's not, America, India, Israel, the names that they use to distract local people from the real culprits. These are the women against Shia killing and Shia missing person. Hundreds of missing person, they're coming back from Iran after their pilgrims, and then they get picked up, taken to Karachi, Islamabad, different places, and, tortured. These are all and these are local people. Local influential people actually telling exact location of where the camps are, and still government not doing anything. So they tell you exactly what valley, which forest block, they tell exact location of the camps, but they still exist there. So these are the news clippings showing the local people know where the training camps of the Kashmiri jihadis and the Lashkar-e-Taiba, for instance, or Taliban are. These are schools burned by Taliban. So this is my third last slide. And in Urdu, this says, so there's a Kashmiri writer from POK, his name is Sayyid Asad, and he wrote a book and it's called Historical and Constitutional Status of Gilgit-Baltistan. And on page 17, he writes that he went to talk to Mirza Hassan Khan, the main guy who separated Gilgit-Baltistan from the Dogras and enabled Pakistan to capture it. And he said, "Aap sabko Hindi aati hai?" And he said, "Mirza sahab, aapne badi भरपूर जिंदगी गुजारी है, क्या आपकी जिंदगी में कोई दुख और पछतावा भी है?" So he said, मुझे जिंदगी में एक ही दुख और पछतावा है कि मैंने रियासती फौज डोगरा आर्मी में कमीशन लिया और मैंने हल्फ लिया, ओथ लिया कि मैं अपने मुल्क और बादशाह हरि सिंह का वफादार रहूंगा, I'll stay loyal to him. लेकिन अफसोस 1947 में हालात ने ऐसा रुख इख्तियार किया कि मैं इस हल्फ से मुनहरिफ हो गया. I rebelled against it. And then सईद असद said, उन्होंने पाकिस्तानी मुआशरे की तरफ इशारा करके कहा, like पाकिस्तानी सोसाइटी, काश मुझे इल्म होता कि हमारा वास्ता, हमारा ताल्लुक एक गैर इंसानी, इनह्यूमेन, गैर जमहूरी, अनडेमोक्रेटिक, गैर इखलाकी, इमोरल और बदतरीन मुआशरे से, the worst of the society से पड़ेगा तो मैं कभी बगावत ना करता. So this is the main guy, the top guy who separated Gilgit, and these are his words before death. He's calling Pakistan the worst of the societies, undemocratic, inhumane, immoral. So you can imagine, like, people have realized what Pakistan is, literally.
So basically what you're saying is when the attack happened in
November 47.
There was this whole group which supported the Pakistan army coming in to separate this territory into Pakistan.
उस वक्त तो आर्मी नहीं थी,
उनकी तो आर्मी थी और
नहीं, ये सारे महाराजा के सोल्जर्स थे. तो पुंछ में और गिलगित में रिबेलियन हुआ क्योंकि महाराजा ने एक्सेशन किया इंडिया के साथ. तो ये वो लोग हैं. फिर उसके बाद इन्होंने अपना रिपब्लिक एस्टैब्लिश किया गिलगित में, उसको फिर पाकिस्तान ने ले लिया. Right?
So they turned against the Maharaja.
Yeah,
They turned against, yeah, so they rebelled against Maharaja.
इतने सब सालों में यूएस की पोजीशन ह्यूमैनिटेरियन तौर पे इस एरिया के लिए क्या है?
तो यूएस का प्रॉब्लम ये है ना कि यूएस अप अनटिल रिसेंटली तो कोल्ड वॉर के उस सिचुएशन में फंसा हुआ था, राइट? तो इसलिए पाकिस्तान एंड चाइना बोथ वर रियली इम्पोर्टेंट अगेंस्ट रशिया, against Soviet Union. And if you look at what history shows us, that Xinjiang and Gilgit became the main training camps for fighters who were trained there and then sent against Russians in Afghanistan. Xinjiang, yeah. South Xinjiang had training camps. So China was openly cooperating because China had a long vision that Russia is the biggest competitor when it comes to the left bloc. So if there's no Soviet Union, then China is going to lead the left bloc, right? So, and again, there's a huge difference between Stalinist and Maoist ideology, right? Marxist and Maoist ideology. So it was very convenient for China to work that way. So United States had a very, open position that they recognized line of control and they recognized Pakistan's control over it. And that has changed now. So if you listen to, for instance, the State Department, different statements coming from press releases, it says that CPEC is passing through Gilgit, which has a challenge sovereignty by India, and it's a disputed area, so Pakistan and China should not do that. So that's a change in position of the United States, that the United States, openly challenging what China is doing there now. So I think there's a big shift there. But if you ask me, they don't consider, as the government policy, United States, State Department or the White House would not consider it as part of India. Not as of now.
Is it a huge military presence there?
Yes, yes, so. No, I have 2 more slides, sir. So conclusion, I'm just going to read it. So I believe that we are Indians, we are Indian citizens, we should be reunited with India because India has everything to offer, right? When it comes to culture, when it comes to economy, when it comes to a vibrant society, when it comes to the civilization, it is the home for all of us. So this division that happened in 1947, it was artificial and it has hurt everyone. So I believe that we need to be reunited, and I believe that the world must acknowledge to start that Pakistan is an occupier and it has to withdraw from GB, and India, I believe that has a responsibility. So when Pakistan is occupying Gilgit, and if you read the UN resolutions, it says India has the responsibility to protect life, honor, and assets. So that means India has the responsibility to push Pakistan out. Otherwise, how will you protect life, honor, and asset if Pakistan is still there and India is not able to protect local citizens? So India has a constitutional responsibility to protect Gilgit-Baltistan from Pakistan. I believe that India should help build a UN tribunal to investigate all the Shia genocide and the unmarked graves, the involuntary female disappearances. They captured our females during genocides, and the presence of terrorist camps there. So I think India has a responsibility. It should work with the UN in that regard. We believe that this proxy representation that the Kashmiris enjoyed for such a long time, it has come to an end now, which is a good thing, but we have always spoken against that the Kashmiris do not represent us. Hurriyat Conference or Umar Abdullah, Mufti, they don't represent us. So now I think the time has come. Now UT Ladakh has been established. We should have a direct representation in India. So even though physically we're not with India right now, but we should have representation in India's constitutional and legislative bodies. So I don't know how, I was talking to Banuji that Article 370 जा सकता है, ये तो बहुत छोटी बात है, representation होना लोक सभा में, राज्य सभा में.
But we like the word that you have termed, which is POL.
Yeah, Pakistan occupied Ladakh. We're not Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir anymore.
So that
we're done with that.
That's the beginning.
Yeah.
And most of us will definitely lobby so that you will have some representation in India.
Thank you so much. Yeah, ये जितने अमेरिका में इंडियंस हैं हम सबको मिलकर ये लॉबी करनी चाहिए